Hi, welcome to Rainey Dewey's Art Spot. My name is Rainey. My real name is Lorraine, but you can call me Rainey. The video that I'm sharing today is of a recently completed pencil drawing. The subject is a landscape. The photo reference that I'm using is a landscape scene in early autumn here in upstate New York. The challenge when you're using a color photograph in doing a pencil drawing is you're going to need to translate those colors into values. Your values are your darks and lights, but you've got lots of tools in your tool shed. I use a variety of pencils to accomplish that. And so without further ado, come on board. Let's go see how it happens. Okay, there's my photo reference. The paper that I'm using here is a Bristol Casson paper. It's a 96 pound. The actual paper size is an 11 by 14, but what I have done is I've drawn myself a little rectangle. It's a 3.5 by 5. I typically draw and paint smaller formats, so I give myself borders on the large paper before I begin. So a lot of times that will help when you're sketching because you have checkpoints that you can use against the edge of the paper. I'll explain that later. And so I started here with a B pencil. It's B is for blackness and H is for hardness. So you're going to have a B, HB, 2B, all the way up to 8 or 9B. And the higher the number, the darker the value. And so here I'm using a very soft hand, not a lot of weight, not using a lot of pressure. These are just guidelines for the very initial stages of this sketch. The reason I use a soft hand right now is because I will make corrections and use an eraser, a kneaded eraser or the rubber eraser to make corrections if I need to later. And if you use a really dark value right now, it will be very hard to remove it without doing some damage to your paper. So what I did there was I have a piece of paper that I put under my hand. It covers part of the drawing so you don't smudge a lot of the graphite that's on the paper. Okay, here I changed for the distant trees on the hillside to an H. H is for hardness, so it won't be as dark as the B, and I want a lighter value on those hills. You can look at the reference photo and see the difference between the value of the trees in the foreground and the trees in the distance. While they're dark, they're under a haze, and so they are lighter. So my technique that I use most often, almost all the time, is I'll do layering. So I'll start with an H on the bottom, an H of some kind. That's a 3B. It's one of my favorites. You can see I've used it down quite short. And that is a 3B. So that's going to give you a fairly dark value. And because I'm going over the H, it gives me a smoother surface. There might be an easier way to accomplish it, but this is how I accomplish the drawings that I do. I don't work from one edge to the other edge. I will work all around the drawing and the painting. I'll work here and there just to get a sense of it, go back and forth. The nice thing about art is there's no right or wrong way to do it. Can't tell which pencil I'm using there. I notice I twist my pencil around. I'd like to have a sharp point, so when I work one edge blunt, I turn it. I hadn't noticed that until I saw this video. So I'm back to doing the H. You can see the grasses in the field are lighter, so you want to use an H, or at the very least one of the lighter of the B series. The lightest in the B series would be a 2B, and then they go all the way up. I think I have a 9B. and that would give you a very, very dark value. Still moving across with the H, making little corrections with my kneaded eraser. Okay, I have this, trying to do the railroad crossing signs. There is a car in this photograph. I'm not going to put it in. And actually, I didn't even notice, but there is a guy who's climbing the hill. I didn't notice it at the time. I wonder if he ran out of gas. And here I am just taking a picture of him and driving on. Oh my God, I feel bad now. Story of my life. There's that 3B. I'll have to find out what brand it is and get some more. I try different brands of pencils from time to time. I don't get stuck on one brand. I'm like, oh, maybe this new pencil will help me do a better job. I'm not sure it really works out that way, but you may have noticed here I've got a magnifying glass out. Sometimes I've got trifocals, so sometimes I need to use a magnifying glass, especially on some of the small pieces that I do, just to get a little closer view. And then it seems sometimes my eyes adjust and I don't need to continue using it. Trying to put in the railroad crossing signs there. Back and forth. That's the style. I do believe we each develop our own style. As you begin to create more and more artwork, you'll have a certain unity in the work that you create. I don't think it's conscious. It's just something that's in us. So you can look at someone's work and just know it comes from them. And that will happen with you once you start. The key is starting. There, I'm just going over some of the base coat of H with a darker value. And let's see where we're at here. Okay, I'm laying in the roadway, and I'm using a blending tool because I really want a soft, smooth surface. And so I'll use these blending tools that I've used before, and they already have a little graphite loaded on them. You can see the tips on them are dark, and so that's got a little bit of graphite on it already. And so I don't really want a lot of dark value, so I'll softly pick up a little bit of graphite in another place on my drawing. You saw I just grabbed a little graphite onto the tip of the blending tool by touching another part of my drawing. Or there I go, loading up that tortillon. I think that's what that's called. And then trying to get the roadway in. Loading it up again. I don't want to go on with a layer of graphite and then smooth it out because the texture will be too extreme. I want it to be smooth. And on the roadside, going around the stripes on the road, on the edge of the road. I'm going to be lifting off. I've already come a ways with this, so I know that I'm going to be lifting off some of that roadway because the road really is a lighter value. not to get to the end first, but it's too dark. And so I go in with my kneaded eraser and I lift off. That's why I don't spray fix my drawings at all while I'm in process, because once you use the reworkable fixative, you have very little control over how much you can remove. At this stage, I can really get down and bring out the light areas, as you can see, by using a kneaded eraser or the rubber eraser. I'm trying there to use a very, the kneaded eraser is nice because you can get it into a little point, but that's not, I'm not having success right there, removing the little line in the middle of the road. So I'm going to have to take a different approach. So now I'm going around it. I'm struggling a little with that part of it, as you'll see as I continue. The key here is not to give up. It's like, okay, how can I get that the way I want it? Never quit. I still don't really like the value of that road, so I'll be making a correction to that a little bit later. As I continue on, I'm just refining the drawing, building the one layer over the other. This is where I'll dig into the darker B pencils. That one's a B. Probably should be a little darker. So it's all just a process of building. There was a time when I didn't like to put in things like utility poles and stop signs. Now I really like them. It's where we are. It's our world. Why not include it? That was a piece of acetate, which is a clear. It was actually one of my sleeves for my artwork. And so what I like to do is, I wasn't sure I wanted to put that dense stand of trees on the left-hand side. So I used a black Sharpie on the acetate over the top of the drawing, and I did a little quick scribble of it to see how it would look, to see if I really did want it on there. And you can see I decided that I should keep that aspect of the drawing, or of the photograph. That's the one thing that I've learned over time, is you don't need to be a slave to the photograph. If you see something you want to change it. If it works, if you get an intuitive sense that it works, or your design sense say it's better to move this here and that there, then do it. Tweak your values so that they are more connected. Create interesting shapes. You can let nature be your guide, but you can make some of those artistic decisions in your work. Here I am struggling with that roadway. I always find there's some little thing that challenges me. Ultimately, we just do the best we can. And the one key is to know when it's finished. Know when to call it. I know, particularly with watercolor painting, I could very easily overwork things. So A lot of times the finished product sneaks up on you before you know it. You're almost there. A little more detail around the little farm up there. Laying in dark values. I lean down that 3B pencil a lot in this sketch. I don't think I pulled out any of the very, very dark ones, except a couple of times. It's very unusual. Okay, we're getting close to being done. So now I'm going in over it. I'm taking a look at it and trying to get my dark value pattern laid in. And there we are, start to finish. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you have any questions or comments, you can leave them here below and I'll try to get you a coherent answer. Thanks again for joining me here at Rainey Dewey's Art Spot. If you have any questions or comments, be sure to leave them below. And if you like this video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to be notified when the next video comes out. Thanks again.